You're on your second donut already? Must be a stressful day.
That's my birthday.
It is?
It is.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, gee, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, real thrill.
We should have
Yeah,
had
that's
Amy
how.
put a candle in the donut.
Yeah, well, you know.
No, please.
You're on your second donut. So what do you do on Fridays when you're stay home?
Yeah.
My sister's birthday is January 13th, and we always would ride her on, give her all sorts of shit. When it was Friday.
We are broadcasting on YouTube.
Okay, I apologize for my use of a certain language.
Can Maggie, can you hear us in Green Island? Okay.
I can, thank you.
And Mike Miller's here, I guess, too, from our joint venture team.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning. Morning, Mike. We've got, Chris Whelan here from Troy. We've got, nobody this morning. We got Maggie on the Zoom. From Green Island. I don't think we have any Albany County Water Purification District today. And we've got Mark and Tom from CRPC. And that's who we've got. So we've got forum. And we've got minutes that have been provided, draft from the last meeting. Did anybody have any concerns about any adjustments made to the minutes?
I think there's a typo on the first page, item 2, under Columbia Street Phase 2. I think the throttling gate and everything actually belongs
Beaver Creek.
to the Beaver Creek project, not the Columbia Street.
Columbia Street.
Is a 2-way.
So just strike that.
Columbia Street is a phase 2, but the
It does not have a 2-way,
the throttling gate is a 2-way on Beaver Creek.
right?
Anything else?
Or just a couple typos, non-substantive typos, I noticed. Under item 6, have a closings, should we have a closing coming up? And then on item 8, there's just a misspelling of the word bypasses. On the first bullet.
Okay, with those corrections, can I have a motion to accept the minutes? Motion, Chris, I second Gary, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Financial report. White.
Yeah, we've got that. We have a cash balance of about $47,000 in the bank. I'm working through, and we're about all together 66.5% completed on all of our projects through the year against budget. We've finished $13,330,000 worth of projects on the long-term control plan. And I'm in the process of working through all the old netting numbers so that I can give Tom some better numbers as to what the payables and receivables actually are in detail as opposed to in total. In total, it appears to be correct. It's the detail that's off.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you, Tom. We vendor invoices. We've got so the hose for Arcadis
Steve Carver.
Carver. We got Troy for Oak Street. Albany for Beaver Creek.
Is the work on Polk Street dispersible with the money we get financing?
So I guess these are mostly projects that are getting at completion or near completion in regard to Polk Street was already completed a while back.
It's operational. We have to go back and do 1 more million paving, as it was 20 foot deep and settled over the winter. So they're scheduled at the end of January to come through and do 1 more cut out, back again, fill. And then pave. We're beating them up. We're blaming them for it. They should have got the record. Then it would just be a top coat. It did.
And Columbia Street is done yet?
Not yet, almost. We're waiting for Cloverleaf to come in, get some plantings in there, bio gardens. And there's a little masonry work on one of the walls near our discharge, near our new discharge that they've got to do. Everything else is done. The road's paved, sidewalks are in, striping. So weather permitting, because obviously that wall is down at the stream course. And we can't put guys down on the stream course unless we don't like them. So we gotta wait for some dry weather for that to happen.
Yeah, you can't count on dry weather.
They got a couple guys in there.
So,
Okay, nothing on Bleed Street on this list.
yeah, we are gonna be, getting in some applications on Lead Street. Lead Street, for all intents and purposes, is done. There's some minor plants that still have to be planted. The majority of the planting is done, but they've got to do just a few more plants in one area. And then they've got a regular grass is sprouted up, which is good because everything is stabilized, but they got a hydro seed, a wild flower mix. So they've got to do that, but it looks great. So they'll meet the date, no problem at all. And you'll be seeing some payment apps coming shortly.
Okay. So in terms of anything we owe for DEC, other compliance scheduling, was there anything that needed to be certified to, or Polk Street was already certified last year, and
Columbia Station completion.
Columbia Street was certified because we had it operational. All right, so we will need it for Lead Street. Because, well, we've actually got time. The contract date is July 28th, but the order, I think, says December 15th.
so we're
Well in advance.
we're good with all the compliance.
Yeah, we're good. And to be honest, even though the corridor is functional at this point, I'm holding that over the contractor's head, saying I'm not going to give them substantial completion until the planning. Because it is a green infrastructure corridor. But it is functioning. I could theoretically sign it anytime.
Okay, but there's no rush
Right.
on the certification anyway. So, okay, can I have a motion to pay the invoices?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Maggie. Can I have a second?
Second.
Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's see, I think we have the SharePoint update thing, but I think Mark had another.
Yes, so this is not, Martin's memo is not correct. Because we can actually set up a SharePoint site. I just don't believe Martin had the admin permissions to be able to do it himself, so he went down the wrong rabbit hole. So that was my fault for not giving him the appropriate instructions. But let me see if I can share the screen here just to show you what it would look like and just chat about the process of getting it set up. So, I mean, this is just a basic template. I named the SharePoint site Albany CSO Corporation, just so it's not too long. And this is the future repository of all things CSO. So as members of the corporation, you'll be able to go in here and reference documents. And Bill and I had a long conversation about the kind of content that should be here. But this will be the sort of permanent archive for CSO corporation materials, including materials that back up prior expenses and all that kind of stuff. So right now, myself, Martin, and Bill, you've been invited as a member. I'll inform Martin that we have it and he can start setting it up for Bill and my discussions previously. So we will transition away from the OneDrive in our office and the Dropbox that you all use and just start using the SharePoint site.
I see that there's a fee on that. Is it a forever fee?
As long as we keep paying, CDRPC keeps paying our Office 365 subscription, we can just absorb that. Okay. Yeah, so that information in Martin's memo is not correct. Our subscription for this program includes SharePoint, and we can provide access to members outside of an organization. Okay.
Okay, so there's no decision needs to be made. We just are going to move to using SharePoint to have access to all the information here. All the project information, people need all the information from the upcoming meetings.
Information.
Yeah, right. So let me ask you this. In order for us to be able to access that information, will the different communities have is it password protected or anything, or is it by individual or?
It's by individual. So each one of you individually would be a member of the SharePoint site. So it's just basically assigned and attached to your email address. So unless you are logged in as your email address, you won't be able to access the website. I have not explored what the experience looks like for users outside of the organization, but that'll be part of our initial testing.
Okay.
So,
And can individual communities have additional members, like we've got alternates? So I'm thinking that the alternates probably should have access also in case the primary is indisposed.
yeah, we'll develop lists and we'll develop permission levels. So right now, I have the owner permission level, and Bill has an editor permission level. Martin has an editor permission level. I assume all the board members will have editor permission level so they can upload documents as needed. We can talk about expanding the list to alternates. Alternates may have editor level, or they may just have view level, depending on, what we feel would be the best approach.
Yeah, to be clear, only the host pays a fee.
Mhm.
SharePoint, and then once we're invited, we can.
Right. So what I'm going to do after this meeting today is invite my personal Gmail account as a user, just so I can test it from the outside the organization's perspective and see what that experience is like. But we'll work over the next few months to get this squared away.
I don't know if all of our members use Microsoft products anyway, because usually during that Microsoft environment, things go pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty seamless if you already have a Microsoft account.
Yeah.
It gets a little bit more tricky if you don't have a Microsoft account, but it's still doable. There's just a couple more hoops to jump through.
We've been doing SharePoint stuff with EPA. I don't know if you've been doing SharePoint stuff. That's the way they want to do it.
Yeah, I think Google Docs, SharePoint.
Here, submit your stuff to this. So
Electronic file, and they take it and never get back to you.
well, it's a group. You hope they don't get there too. I think you're all done with it. You submitted stuff.
Keep that thought.
It's just knowing whether message sent is message received sometimes. It's
We usually send a follow-up email to say, hey, we just downloaded on this date to this SharePoint. And then he's responded to email received. That's it.
So, I guess, we got EFC disbursements and reconciliations. I kind of missed, doing our bi-weekly because it was the 4th of July.
Right.
So we haven't had one of those in a while. That will be coming up, and I guess we'll see it. Been seeing lots of emails with EFC approving some engineering stuff and some change order stuff, and hopefully we're getting all our stuff clear.
Yeah,
I gotta clear my Tuesday afternoon. Take 2 meetings. I have 3 meetings at 1 o'clock.
So, I don't think we have too much to discuss in this.
Columbia Street. Last thing I knew was we had sign offs with EFC. Supposedly, everything is dispersible. Lead Street, we're still waiting on a few things. They had sent us the documentation checklist. And we've got most of those items. We're waiting. We were waiting on just 1 or 2 things from the contractor. And then we're going. So we already notified EFC that we'll send it all at one time, not piecemeal. So, and just before I left today, I noticed Brenda Lee sent us something. I have no idea what it is. I didn't get a chance to open it. Really don't want to open it until I get back.
And you're sitting down.
After it's not your birthday anymore.
Before he gets in the car and has to drive someplace.
But we're working, so we're working on the documentation for Lead Street.
Okay,
Columbia Street, supposedly everybody can draw down when the money's available.
we're closing on an amendment to our 1 tranche, which extends the maturity. So that 01 was what we were doing, Columbia and Bleed Street and Polk Street and some other things out of. So that's, we knew we weren't gonna make it for September deadline for closing out of long term. So we've kind of pushed that out. I guess that also gives us another opportunity to get final numbers all in before we go to the long term.
Yeah, we're very close to a final number on Columbia Street on the next change order. Still pretty close to what we had talked about before. Looks like it's probably going to be around 350, 400,000. So, Carver, I'll still have to agree on like 2 or 3 different line items. They're not real big money items, but there's, we ought to be getting a credit against some of the
Somehow
Yeah.
credits don't get inflated like charges to them.
yeah,
There should be an inflation factor on credits.
yeah.
Well, you guys didn't anticipate that in the original agreement.
I included in what you guys were handed where we are with the Beaver Creek project is there. So yeah, it's got all the different phases listed. So at this point, we're at the total contract amount for the contracts, not the engineering part, but just the construction contracts, 48 million. And paid so far 42.5, so we're 88% as of the most recent pay applications. And just the Beaver Creek Phase 5 part, which is the satellite treatment facility, we're about 86% completion. We have a DC quarterly meeting, so we can show we've got pretty good progress. We're still waiting for the odor control stuff to come in, so we still have a hole over this one area where the odor control equipment's going to go in. Can't do the final concrete pour over that until the equipment's in.
How did you survive the storm?
Actually, So at the diversion structure, they did open that up. Keller had Witch. I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Witch, but
Sound magical.
they come in with the incredible saws to cut out the chunks of the tops of the Beaver Creek, both downstream and upstream. So that they were able to take the cut and the big section of the old Beaver Creek out, and it came out intact. I mean, we didn't have a lot of stuff just really fall in or anything. It's it came out nice and clean. But it's amazing equipment they use for doing that. But that means right now, when we get these storms, the top of the Beaver Creek is open.
Yeah.
So, and Keller's down there trying to work around it because they have to make new channels and a new dam and stuff down in there. So they've got some piping set up to kind of bypass like through the existing Beaver Creek while they make the channel that goes down to the tunnel. And then after that, the flow is all going to be going down to the new satellite treatment facility while they try to dam off and build the weir. So, the main flow from typical dry weather flow and most of the wet weather flow will go down to the satellite treatment facility. But if it gets too high, it's going to overflow a weir to go down the original Beaver Creek. But this is the toughest part of the job, or the most trickiest part, because you have to work around with weather and you got to pull your stuff out of there.
And 5 inches of rain.
Yeah. We were originally hoping that we would have all the odor control stuff in before we started diverting, but they've kind of isolated some of the influent work. So right now, there's a 6-foot diameter bypass from the influent chamber to the downstream discharge chamber. So right now, if it overflows and goes down the tunnel, it's going to take that route, and they try to seal off the channel going to the screen so that the smell doesn't go through the whole building where people are still working. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing, stuff that normally. So, but the odor control is supposed to be delivered with something that we can get that stuff going. So
is there any possibility of surcharging out of the old Beaver Creek that the tops are removed, or?
well, there's going to, even right now with this setup, there'll be more paths for the flow to go to than before, because it can go down through the satellite treatment facility around its bypass. It can end up going down the original Beaver Creek. What they're building the bypass is sort of like a flume through their work area. So they're going to build this rectangular flume. If there's too much flow, it still could go either down the flume down the original Beaver Creek or down to the satellite treatment facility and down the treatment plant bypass. You never know what Mother Nature's going to throw at you.
No, I will always win.
Yeah.
We're good for some design flow. So that's hopefully that part can get done quickly because it's nobody wants to have a lot of time with that kind of situation. And that's where we're still. There's still some complaints from the county water purification district about how the conveyor system works for the screen project at the south plant. We're trying to get that resolved, and we're still haven't done a startup with that throttling gate at the south plant, but all the parts are in now, and they're just finishing up the control panel going to do the startup. And that's those are the things that are ongoing. Other parts have been completed. And any other updates? Then, any other business?
Do you want to talk about the operations costs for Big C
The
and
operations.
whether or not we need an INA?
Yeah, I guess I'm not of the opinion that we need something at the moment. I'm of the opinion that we'll need to rely on the existing IMA until we get some experience operating the facility.
Yeah, because your costs are now, you know.
I think Albany, and Tom's not here to talk about it, but I think Tom was going to be trying to set up some separate budget accounts in our accounting system. So that if we're identifying something in the future for how the cost share is going to work, and we identify exactly how we're going to be tracking the costs.
What other projects are included in that cost sharing?
I don't know off the top.
Just the flowables control facilities. So our flowables control facilities are composed. Now, look, Gary was saying it might be a passive screen, in which case it might not be.
Right.
Any issue?
And the other thing, wish Timmy was here, but Albany County currently maintains, even though we own it, they maintain the local state. So, I'm under the impression that relationship is still going to be continuing.
Just changes what they maintain a little bit, but still the same
Right.
idea.
Yeah, and if it's gonna be a passive screen, which Arcadis has already started looking at that. And that's what I indicated is my preference.
So just be something to be washed down if you get a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
It's down, back and down, and move on.
exactly. You know, I want it simple. That's what I told them. I want this thing nice, simple. So,
I bring it up, Martin just reiterated his opinion that the existing agreement just says that the cost share needs to happen, but does not specify the details. So, I mean, your approach, because there are so many unknowns in terms of the costs, maybe just take a wait and see approach, that might be worth it. You could also draft an IMA just articulating, any specific.
Yeah, we had a similar situation with Town of Colony and on the water side for emergency back and forth within our interconnection. And we kind of identified exactly on each side what items would be part of the cost. So it doesn't amount to adding any overhead or any kind of things like that. It'd just be like power costs and chemical costs and so forth.
I think now you know a little bit more about what the facility is and what it's gonna need. I think either an amendment to the IMA or a new IMA that kind of spells out what's included for how long. It's probably.
I would recommend not an amendment, but a totally separate IMA.
It's so we'll have to see. Now this year we're not going to be in operation at all. Next year we're in operation, and then we have to have a wet weather plan that has to be done at the end of that first season.
and we got a sampling program that has to commence after that or so to see if we're meeting the intent of the consent order.
And then consent order too.
Yes.
I
And
didn't want to say that.
maybe we'll have done such a good job that they'll never bother with again.
Okay.
No good job goes unpunished.
Exactly.
Yeah, so don't offer to do anything extra.
Well, if it comes from ESC, they're gonna say hell no.
Any other business? Then can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Gary, that was quick.
Happy birthday.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Maggie, second. Thank you, Maggie.
All right, yeah, we gotta go in there somewhere.
And it might be Mark's last time, I'm not sure, because Mark says he's retiring.
That's supposedly the 21st, but
Oh, wow.
Well, congrats.
we'll see.
What a long, strange trip it's been, right?
Yeah,
It has been
it's been great working with you, Mark.
such a great guys here.
You can say that now, Julian.
No, you guys, you know, you're doing a great thing. Little to no support from the entities that should be actually spearheading things like this. So,
Thank you for coming. Helping push things along.
Yeah.
yeah. You work for you. Very good.
Have they hired the replacement?
Yes,
Well, good.
problem is that, it's holding us up as Nyler,
Oh, really?
and the only Nyler guy, they don't seem to. You put your stuff in and they don't send ever back any.
Been trying to get Andrew signed up for 6 years or 5 years.
Is there anybody working? No.
Every quarter I send another email with the status.
Yes.
No, I just don't want to put stuff.
Same
Hey, Mark, you put this.
Well, maybe it's something we can flat, well, no. This afternoon's meetings with EFC or is it DC?
DC, well, EFC's been included in this.
Maybe you can flag it for them.
See, I think we had a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.